Yo, what is up, everybody?
What's up? Like,
Why? Yeah, I know. I was like, why you mouthing?
no, I'm just kidding. Trying to make it seem like my mic wasn't working.
Right?
What's going on and on to the break it
Yo,
down, folks?
Pop, we back at it, man. We here.
We're doing it. That's
Another
how we
day.
do. That's what
Another
we do.
another podcast episode, and we're not even going to do a whole lot of big introduction stuff because I want to get into it, man. Today we talking about body image, self-esteem for young men that may be struggling with that, right? So let's get into it. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, we got to run that intro.
Yeah, gotta run the intro. Do that. Do that thing.
Yo, yo.
Yeah.
Right? It just gets stuck in your head right there.
Right.
Yo.
Cool. So we're gonna talk about it a little bit, huh? Some self-image and body imaging and all that, and looking at it from the perspective of guys. Is that that's what we're gonna do?
Yeah, let's do it. And let's talk about how ways that a trusted, supportive adult can help and support a youth, a young man, through this type of weird, uncomfortable conversation. So the reason why I want to bring this topic up to the pod is because I was on Instagram the other day scrolling. Of course, as I do on my weekends, mindlessly scrolling. That's another topic for later. We'll talk about that later. But an account popped up called Raising Self, and she's a mother, a black mother, a black woman that's raising a young black man. And they have candid conversations, kind of like we do. And the young man is 11 years old, and they have candid conversations. And one of the things that were brought up during this TikTok was this young man felt ugly. He felt like he didn't look the way he was supposed to look. He thought people were looking at him strange, and he felt this way about himself. And mom did her due diligence, and I love her because she took time to express her emotions about how she felt, but also gave him space to express himself and his emotions. So kudos to
Okay.
mom for
Yeah, yeah,
doing
yeah.
that
No
and
doubt.
having that healthy conversation. And she asked, who told you these things? Who told you that you were ugly? Who told you that you had to look a certain way? And he said, well, nobody. It's just what I believe about myself. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of more context, and I'll definitely would link it into our description below so you can check out that TikTok. Very powerful moment between a mother and a son. But it brought back some memories for myself. Around that age, at 11 years old, 10 to 11
Right,
years
right.
old. And I think you remember vividly those
Mhm.
candid conversations that we had. But for background, for people that don't know
They don't
me
know.
or
They weren't here.
yeah, they were here. They don't know nothing. They don't know. Your boy used to be. I used to joke around. I used to tell people I wasn't walking around the hallways, man. Your boy was rolling down the hallway. I was a little bit chunkier. I had some thick glasses. At that time, they were like thick frame glasses, not the lens, but the thick frame glasses that didn't really fit my face properly. I looked kind of weird. My teeth were throwing up gang signs. I told the youth. It wasn't looking good too. It wasn't looking too good for young Z. Just I didn't have this beard. I didn't have this mustache to cover up some of my facial features. And I didn't have braces at that time. So I really felt some type of way about it all. Just comparing myself to my friends and what I should look like, and then having people project onto me what they thought I should look like, being a black and Mexican person, especially a man. They thought that these people are supposed to be attractive, and this is during the age of where the internet started becoming popular, where social media started to become popular.
Mhm.
So we started to see a lot of like the Michael B. Jordans, a lot of the Odell Beckhams, and people had this expectation of me to look that way. But I was very self-conscious and insecure about myself, and I had to just open up to my dad about it, to Jamal, because it was just a lot for me at that time, and I just had to vent and get it out, and I just wanted some guidance. So I felt like only people saw me for my physical, and to overcompensate for that, I definitely was the class clown for the most part.
Mhm.
I'd be disrupted during class, and it was just because I wanted people to see me other than my physical trait. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
So yeah, I don't know what we do from here, but I wanted to get your guidance. How did you feel when I came up to you and brought that concern up to you?
Yeah, I felt, you know, concerned that it was impacting you the way that it did. But it makes sense. I mean, you're young, you know what I'm saying? You're coming up, you never dealt with this type of issues, never seen it, never felt it, never realized that people would be, making comments and stuff like that. So it was a matter of trying to get in your head and, let you know that you're beautiful, you know what I mean? And God made you the way that he made you, and there's always going to be some haters out there, but you got to love yourself and be cool with it. And that takes time, though. That's
Mhm,
about the self talk that I told you about, or taught you, and it's a mindset. I mean, because you're talking about how you felt younger. I didn't. It was really interesting for me. I've always been a big dude, fat, chubby, whatever. That's just how I've always been. But I always, and your Nino would tell you, man. I mean, I've always been active, running around. I mean, I BMX, I skateboarded. Um, I wasn't like just sitting around the crib, just stuffing my face.
mm,
Um, but I've always been a big guy. But shout out, my friends when I was coming up and younger. Nobody ever really said anything to me about, because I used to go swimming, shirt off and
mm,
flab, you know what I'm saying, just running around. I used to be on the low dive, the high dive, and just swimming, man. But nobody ever made fun of me.
mhm,
And so it never impacted me like that. I mean, the thing that impacted me the most was realizing that I was black,
mm,
amongst these white folks and lighter skinned people, growing up overseas. That was the main thing. So, but my mom used to tell me too that she did give me a couple of pointers. My mom's like, being big dude was, I sometimes, like, when I was little, I used to just be walk heavy.
mm,
I would just boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? And she's
mhm,
like, you got to be a little bit lighter on your feet, baby. You know what I'm saying? You got to, like, you can't be like thumping around. And so I learned to be like just a little bit lighter on my feet in the way that I walk. Not so, I guess using different muscles and not just being lazy with it or whatever. So she
mm,
gave me that tip. The other thing was, sometimes I just tightened up my stomach muscles and would pull my stomach in, and um it just became natural to me to like have, having my stomach muscles pulled in, my stomach pulled back a little bit, but it wasn't anything like crazy.
mhm,
But I mean, I think I think the other thing that I've noticed in working with youth through all my years, it reminds me of kind of like dogs, is like there's this awkward period in time
mm,
sometimes where everybody goes through this weird transformation in their development, right?
mhm,
Um, I mean, it's crazy because I remember, I don't know if you ever had anything like this or saw anything like this, and at least you never told me, but I remember, like, coming up and like sometimes when you leave for the summer for school, and then you don't see people for like what, that 2 months or 2.5 months or whatever it is,
mhm.
and you come back and you see them and you're like, what the heck happened to
Right.
you? And they look banging, like some of the girls, even some of the guys look a little bit different. They're taller, they're stretched out, they're, maybe they don't have as much acne anymore, or
Mhm,
they got a different haircut, and then they're just looking, they're just styling and profiling, and you're like, dang. And it's like, reminds me a little bit like of, dogs when they go through that phase. They get through this little awkward phase where they're, at least with German shepherds, I'll speak more to German. They got these huge beak. They don't grow. They're trying to grow into their body, so that
mhm.
their noses
Snout.
are, yeah,
Yeah.
snout is all large, ears all floppy and weird. And the next thing you know, like a year later, they're like beautiful, just
Mhm,
beautiful. Um, and so I think with young people not understanding and having to have that conversation with them, that like I did with you, is just that, one, you're beautiful. I'm saying, you got to accept yourself for who you are, and you're going to change over time.
mm,
Yes, there are some things that you can do in the meantime, but just understand that you have to appreciate yourself for who you are and what you are. And I understand, I get it, that it's embarrassing. You may not look like the dude next to you, and can make you feel some type of way. But not everybody's gonna be, all ripped at 11 o'clock, 11 years old. um, and we all have different genetics. We all have different things. That was the other interesting thing for me, and I don't know, might just be something for people to consider and think about is, I was hanging out with these cats that were, had different metabolisms than me.
Mm,
So I was eating what they were eating,
mhm,
but it landed on me differently than it did them.
mm,
Like they would be eating, I'd eat what they eat. We go to snack, it's called a snack bar where we were, they'd be eating cheese pizza, burgers, fries, chocolate shakes, what I'm saying, soda. And I'm
right.
like, I'm just gonna roll with them. I'm gonna eat what they eat. What I mean? That's what we do.
Mhm,
And then it ended up like, like I said, landing on me differently than it did them. And it was just like, dang, what's crazy. I mean, and again, I'm still exercising with them, riding bikes and this, that, and the other. So it was crazy. I mean, and of course, growing up in Saudi, I mean, it's 120, so it ain't like, I mean, we sweating like,
right, 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 right. You're getting active. You're out
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah, burning some calories still too, but the calories wouldn't burn the same way for me as it did for them.
Mhm,
And it took me a long time. Oh, the other thing for me though, and this might be one of the other differences though, is I used to love milk, man. Oh, I used to love some cold milk, bro.
that's strange. Okay.
Ooh, cold milk, man. Oh man, I used to love it. And overseas, it was kind of different. I mean, I don't know how it was different, but it was just a different type of milk. Not in a bad way, but yeah, I would just kill some milk, man. I
Mm,
kill some milk. So maybe that was my issue. But even still, yeah, you see, I'm a big, beautiful dude right now. And I don't know, it just lands different on me, man. And so I think uh, talking with your young person about how it does it make them feel. And I mean, that's what you and I did, right? It was just talking about like, okay, where are you at with this? And how's it making you feel? Uh, what is it that you'd like to change if we can? There's just some things that, may not be. And the thing is that you were just right. You were just your body's just different and you're growing and your body's developing and changing. And I think the other thing that hurt your feelings, you're gonna tell the story about what that one teacher said.
mm. I don't remember this.
Yeah, you do. It's mess with you all. You always like to tell the story. I'm surprised you forgot. Miss, what's her name? Fourth
Jo
grade.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Rejogging my memory there. Yeah. No, I
Remember
think it
that
was
one?
different though at that time. I think it was a different kind of context, that story, where it was more like I had a fourth grade teacher who looked at me differently, and she told
And she
me,
was black too.
yeah, she was black, and she wanted me to. She asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I told her I wanted to be like an NBA basketball player, and she kind of like winced and was like, "Ooh, yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen." And when you're fourth grade, 8 or 9, 10, you're like, that's devastating to hear, especially from a teacher, somebody of influence of like, dang, she really just like rained on my parade. Like, and it really rubbed me the wrong way. She also thought I was adopted because my mom is a fair skinned Mexican woman, still beautiful, all that good stuff. But she could pass as white. And I think she thought that I was adopted because my mom would pop him into these parent teacher conferences, and not because my dad didn't care, just more that his schedule didn't allow him to be at those places at that time, and my mom had the more flexible schedule at that time to be at those events. So there were just a lot of misconceptions about me, and yeah,
Well, she did say that you were too chunky.
yeah, that too. Yeah, yeah, for sure. She kind of looked at me and was like, "Yeah, you little chunky. I don't know. I don't see how that's
You
happening." And also, I was, to her defense as well. I mean, I was chunky and I was short at the same time. There was like I wasn't tall and chunky. Like, you know what I
were,
mean?
you were,
Like, so
yeah.
she was definitely, was she wrong? Probably not. You know what I mean? But the way the delivery landed for me, it just didn't. It was really untasteful. Like it wasn't tasteful way, you know what I mean, to say that to a young person, and they didn't realize how much impact that had on me.
Right.
But growing up, I think I understand what she was getting at. We made our amends. I talked to her, told her I had such a big grudge on her because of this, and I told her like she saw a leader in me. You know what I mean? Rather, and I wish that she would have said that instead of saying it the way that she did. Meaning that you don't need to be an NBA player to be seen. You know what I mean? Or be a rapper
Mm,
to be seen. And I think she was just tired of seeing these black students aspire to be the only thing that they think they could be to make it is a basketball player, a rapper, a football player. And I think she really wanted to get at that. There's so many other avenues that these young black men can take, but it just landed the wrong way. You know what I mean? And I understand the
right.
intent now as an older person, but back then, oh boy, I was devastated. That was the motivation to get me to varsity, to get me through the toughest practices, playing with the Tucson Spartans and whatnot. So shout out to that teacher that helped that kind of fueled the fire, but also uh help me come to this life understanding and just challenge me in a way that maybe wasn't productive at that time, but now later on maybe
So I
is
think this the story in there is, got to watch your words
for sure.
and how you're saying things and telling people. I think, I mean, yeah. I mean, another thing that you did though too was, I mean, they should call you Little Barkley,
Hmm.
Little Barkley, like Charles Barkley,
Yeah.
Sir Charles. And I mean, you were dominating in the court, what I'm saying,
Hmm.
as a big man and down in the post, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And even though you were short, I mean, not everybody at that time was extremely tall. There was a couple of cats, but I
for
mean,
sure.
you were able to handle your own, and I think embracing how you looked and how you were in that moment uh just helped you to excel also. But I think parents, I would suggest to you all, is just be careful with your words and how you use them and what you say, because where they are today is not necessarily going to be where they are tomorrow
Mhm.
or the next day, um, or years to come.
Yeah.
You started to thin out as you got older and got
Hmm.
taller. You know what I mean, in middle school, and yeah, you also began to work out a little bit more because you joined, the team and stuff like that. But I don't think it was overly,
Hmm.
like you got addicted to it or was going extra ham, you know what I'm saying,
Hmm.
or anything like that. You were just being a team, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
um, so I think, yeah, just being coming. The other thing that I get nervous about, and I think it's okay to have the conversation with young people about health and exercising, um, but also just being careful that that's not the only thing that
Mm.
you're constantly, we were talking, your sister and I yesterday, and there's some families that are like, you can only have one almond, It's like, oh, are you about to have three almonds right now?
Oh wow.
And it's like, what? And again, yes, 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 got to monitor, but it's the
Moderation.
moderation, yeah, you know what I mean? And but it's all in how you say it. I mean, my dad told me, and I shared this with you, it's not what you say, but how you say it. And
Mm.
that's always resonated with me, like in how I communicate with people or try to communicate with people. Um, and if it's going to be something heavy or hard or difficult, how am I saying this or delivering it so that it does land right? Like you just said with that teacher, it didn't land right at all.
Hmm. For sure.
Yeah, yeah, with maturity, you can see what she was trying to say, but should a young person have to do that much thinking to try to figure out what they meant? Now, if
No.
you're a critical thinker as you get older, yes, okay.
Mm.
Oh, maybe this is what she was trying to get at,
Mm.
but in the moment as a young person, and I know sometimes, I can hurt people's feelings, even my kids, I'm saying, you and Valentina,
Mm.
because I can be a little firm sometimes. But I'm trying to be, and sometimes I do it on purpose.
Truth comes out now,
Yeah,
Valentina.
right,
We know.
right. Be like, don't listen to this one, Valentina. I'm not done with you yet. You got 4 more years. But sometimes it's purposeful, just to get something, to get a reaction in a certain way, so I can then get you to move.
Mm.
So a lot of times I'm thoughtful in how I'm doing things. And I don't know if a lot of parents take the time to do that, which that's here nor there, to be honest. But it's just the way my dad taught me. And so again, just how you say things and have that conversation and not make them feel even worse
Yeah.
about themselves, especially coming from mom or dad or, Thea or, you know
Or
what I'm
even
saying?
teachers for that
Theo.
matter, right?
Yeah, even teachers, right?
Because they're people
Um,
influencing young people's lives, so your words have weight as well.
yeah, it really does, man. You're so right. And, you know, um, we want to help them grow. And sometimes, helping them try different activities if you feeling that all they're doing is gaming or just on
Mhm,
social media all the time, maybe like trying to help them find something different. Because like I said, when I was young, I used to swim all the time
mhm,
and still again was a big dude. It's just, I guess, just who I am. What's interesting is that my parents are big people. um
mhm.
my brother, my mom, my dad. So I don't know, I just got the jacked up genes to a certain degree. um but it is what it is. God made me, and I was one out of a million sperm to make it through.
Hey, there you
So
go. I was gonna add on to what you were saying though about getting them involved in other activities that they may be interested. I think one of the phrases that reigns true for me is instead of calling out, call them in. You know what I mean? Instead of
mm-hmm.
like calling them out, calling them in. And what that means is if you take up an activity, if you're the healthy one, the healthy parent, the healthy guardian, or whatever the case may be, and remind you, health looks different for everybody. I'm not talking about the ones that are jacked or the ones that are ripped. I'm talking about health that you participate in an activity that you really enjoy that increases your heart rate, whatever the case may be, right? That's what I'm talking about. So inviting your youth in to that activity, right? Or maybe you as well want to become more healthier and you're like, hey, let's try this activity together and let's see how we feel and make it a thing
Mm-hmm.
of connection, right? Rather than a thing of calling them out and be like, you need to do this and you should be participating in that. And instead of call them in and something that you guys do together to build that connection. And you'll find out sometimes those connections you're able to have conversations about, so why do you really feel this way about your body, and they're able to tell you maybe things that you've said that you didn't know landed wrong, or maybe they tell you
Mm-hmm.
about other past experiences of family members, teammates, other people, internet, what they say about this person and how that makes them feel. So instead of calling them out, call them in and have that. And that's why the podcast is what it is we call it the Up to It podcast, tough conversations for stronger connections, right? Because
Yep.
that's these are tough conversations to have, and they're definitely not easy to navigate. But once you open that line of connection and open the conversation up, you build that stronger bond with them, and they're able to tell you more about what's happening. And one of the things I also wanted to point out that you said is like owning some of my characteristics, you know what I mean, of being on the
Right,
basketball
right,
court, of little Barkley, of Big Z, right? Those things. Because I didn't feel fat on the court.
right.
I was moving, I was running, I was able to keep up with some of the fastest guards. I was able to get back in my position. So on the court, I felt like I belonged there because I was able to perform at a high rate. But so I say that all to say is to find something that you like to do that doesn't that or surrounds that is surrounded by people that don't see you just for that thing, right? Especially in
Exactly.
performance. And maybe for you, Dad, maybe it was theater. You know what I mean? Where
Yeah,
you felt like you could be your genuine, authentic self. And I mean, just knowing you as what I hear from you as a kid, that you were kind of a free spirit. You didn't really care what anybody thought. You were just going to do you for the most part,
yeah.
especially as a young youth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I played sports. I played baseball. I was really good at
Mhm,
baseball. I was first baseman. That's the other thing my mom did, man. Because like when I started playing baseball, I was good.
mhm.
Um, and I stopped playing because it got boring to me. I was like, I'm just out here standing around like all day. But hey, kudos and shout out to the brothers out there that do it. People that do it. Mad respect because I know how challenging it is. But yeah, but it was interesting because I was a big dude, and you know, they wanted me always to play catcher because that was like a stereotype that the big guys play catcher.
Mm.
Um, and my mom like went to the coach and was like, "Oh hell no, you're not going to put my son in this stereotypical position just because he's big. My son wants to play first base. You're going to give him an opportunity." And then she come back to me and be like, "Baby, you better not embarrass me." You say you want to play for. I went out there and I told them you're gonna play first base, so you better get out there and shine. and that's what I did. You know what I mean? I shined. And so it's I think again, I mean, I was always active. I work out even still to this day. Uh, you know, lift weights, ran, all since I probably got heavier into it when I finished up my junior year in high school.
Mm.
Um, but also went through some of those things we're talking about, like self-image and body image. I mean, when I went to boarding school, I felt kind of lost a little bit.
Mm.
And this goes back to the previous podcast of kind of like, your first. When I went to boarding school, I was a little bit down. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, and probably definitely wasn't eating right at that time. I was just,
Whatever you can.
yeah, you know what I mean? I mean, we had a decent cafeteria, with decent food. And so I would just kind of go in, just trying to soothe myself. And so sometimes that's the other thing maybe to check into when we
Mm.
talk about self-image is, checking in with the individual to see what's going on for them. And maybe why are they uh maybe if you notice in eating habits, why are they
Mhm.
eating so much of this and so much of that and not enough of this or not enough of that. um and unfortunately our society doesn't help, right? I mean,
Mm.
it's easier to go to McDonald's, as we've done in our
Right.
lives, to pick up this, that, and the other, as opposed to
Making food at
going,
home.
yeah, going to the market and then chopping it up, washing it and chopping it up, and then
Mhm.
whatever you do with it, cook it up or whatever. um but I think checking in with those people, I think, because the other thing that I think you and I were talking about a little bit pre-show was um, being careful, because it can go in a negative direction,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Where you're wanting to be something more than you can be naturally.
Mhm.
So you may want to use substances, um, because hey, if I use cocaine, this is gonna help me, lose weight.
Mhm.
Um, if I, get on this type of diet pill, which can be addicting, that can, cause issues for you.
Mhm.
Hey, if I want to get in the gym and I realize that naturally I'm not bulking up the way that I want, I'm gonna start using these supplements and or steroids.
Mhm.
Um, and so now you're starting to create an image for yourself that isn't truly who you are,
Mhm.
and it becomes dangerous. Um, and I know, because I bumped into a couple of podcasts or reels or whatever
Mhm.
on cats in the gym. Because again, I love being in the gym.
Right.
Is But I ran into these reels because I watch a lot of those weightlifting things or whatever for techniques and yada yada. But they were saying, I guess like nowadays that it's a little bit more accepted to
Mm.
use steroids.
Mm.
And so like there was a guy interviewing some people walking around at a weightlifting competition or whatever, and was like, "Hey, are you natural or are you?" I forget the term they use. And some were like, "Oh yeah, I'm 100% natural. I would never use this, that, or the other." Then others was like, "Yo, no, I do it." And sometimes they be asking, some of the guys be asking the girls to
Mhm.
prick them. You know what I mean? Like, give them the shot in their butt.
Mhm.
And so I think with self image, again, being careful. Um, and allowing it to fester and tear you down, and then you end up going a route in which causes more harm than good.
Agreed.
um so like when you think about friends that we've had and some of the things that they've done, it can get dangerous, man. Trying to take all these supplements.
Mhm.
One of my boys, he'll tell you that he was using a supplement, and he's not sure which supplement it was, and it wasn't really it was just, I think it was like for maintenance or some sort, for the
Yeah.
body, and it wasn't to get ripped or anything like that. But he ended up taking it and interacted with some of his medication. He ended up dying for like
Mm.
he ended up dying for like I think he said 2 minutes or something like that.
Mm.
Um,
You took a weird pause there. I thought he died. I was like, wait a minute. Whoa. I don't
yeah, yeah,
understand.
no, no, no. They brought him back to life,
Mm.
um, but and it took a long time for them to figure out. Actually, I think they did not find specifically what it was, but he tied it back to the supplement that he was taking
Mm.
that um he, got from GNC,
Right.
but he just didn't know how it was gonna make him react or whatever.
Yeah.
And so again, just being careful and wanting to change yourself so much that you result to different means that may end up causing more damage than good.
For sure.
And so um I would say just try to love yourself first. Because even if you change the body image, which is can be important, I get it. I'm not saying that it's not, but you got to work on your internal, your heart, your spirit, your mind, because even if you get to a place where you think you are physically, there still may be some things that you got to work on,
Yeah. I love.
because you may not even feel beautiful still,
Yeah.
right? You can put all the makeup on you want, you can do all the designs in your hair, you can have a 6 8 12 pack. uh I got me a little
One pack.
yeah, I got that one pack, you know what I'm saying? I got a party ball. I got a party ball. But but you still may not feel good. You know what I mean? It's just like when people talk about, having money. Oh man,
Yeah.
when I get $1 million or I'm a millionaire, I'm gonna feel good. You know how many millionaires kill themselves? You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? Because they're still not satisfied with who they are, because they're not working on the internal stuff also. And I think that's where we need to be as friends, family, um, and caring adults, is helping people to spend some time nurturing that also.
Yeah.
If you're going to drop those type of uh, conversations on folks, or they
Dude,
even come to you with it. So,
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that because I think being friends with people that do want to compete and do bodybuilding, a lot of them still struggle with their internal, self-esteem and self-image. Because every time they look in the mirror, they see the sixth grade them that's fat
mm,
and people making fun of them, or they feel unattractive and all these things that they think, like you're saying, these supplements, these performance enhancing drugs are gonna make it
yeah,
better for
mhm,
them. But you can get as big as you want, but if you're not doing the internal work to accept who I am, where I'm at, my genetics, my like these things are sometimes I'm not gonna have big shoulders, right? For some people, you're just not gonna have big shoulders because it's not in your genetics, right? That was just something that wasn't handed to you. But you probably have a bigger chest, you probably have bigger
mhm,
biceps, right? So why are we trying to make up for something that we're lacking when it was just the hand we were dealt? You know what I mean? And I just love how you said that we got to keep doing the internal work. And I think a question that you should ask yourself before you do anything, before you take the performance enhancing drug, or before you make a drastic haircut or go on a drastic diet, is, am I doing this for external validation?
mhm,
Am I doing this to please somebody else? Am I doing this to get comments on my Instagram? Am I doing this to get people to slide into my DMs? Or am I doing this because it will genuinely make me feel better as a person and for myself, and I'm comfortable with it, regardless of the consequences, that I'm comfortable with this because it's my decision. I want to do it for me, because I do still think external validation is needed, right? Especially when you're raising young people to show them the great things that they're doing. But if you're doing it for the cosmetic stuff and you're trying to get the validation there, I think that's where it's a lose lose type of situation, because they're not in your life, man. Some of these people are not going to be in your life forever, right?
yep,
And you're trying to appease these people that just they're looking at you from a screen. They don't really know who you are, and I bet if they did know who you are, they would probably like you for your personality in general. And going on that, talking about body image, self esteem, and about what people look for, what they're attracted to. I had an all girls freshman class this last 2 weeks here in Phoenix, and the amazing thing that I saw when I asked them, "What do you find attractive about other people?" And this is talking about healthy relationships and what attracts us to people. And we're not thinking about just romantic relationships; we're talking about friendships
mhm,
as well. They the first like 10 traits they came up with were all personality based. they were all personality based. And when I go to and I sat in on some young, we had an all male class. They wanted to know what the girls wanted, what they liked, what they what did the girls say? What were they attracted to? And there was a story one of my colleagues told me, and he was like, I told them that girls didn't like men that sag, young boys that sagged their pants, right? And
Mhm.
one dude popped up and he pulled up his pants like, oh
With the
nope, not
quickness.
me. Yeah, yeah,
Right,
with the
right.
quickness. He's like, oh, you don't like people that's. And then some of the other traits that these young ladies put on the board were like, I don't like. I like people that don't cuss, right? And I like people that are smart, that are intellectual, that like to have deep conversations. And it
Mhm.
wasn't until we got to the 11th trait that somebody brought up, I like a nice smile,
Mhm.
and that was really it. They really liked the smiles, they really liked the eyes, they really liked how they made them feel rather than
Mhm.
what they could actually
Agree.
provide for them. And this is high schoolers, right? And I know things may change as time goes on, but talking about this and trying to talk to the youth about this is so important. I think we focus hyper focus so much on the physical that we forget to work on the interpersonal skills that we could develop at a young age of saying hi to other people, to smiling at other people, to genuinely embrace your smile and your style that you have, right? Because
Yep.
those are the things that stand out to people. Because I feel like maybe it's because it's a lost art these days where people aren't as social as they used to be, or it's hard to make those genuine connections in person. But whether the case may be,
Mhm.
whatever that is, people are really looking at those interpersonal skills and those personality traits rather than the physical more than you think.
Yeah, it's interesting because I remember I was watching this comedian the other day, and he's like a pretty boy,
Mhm.
um, and I
Oh,
forget
you're
his
talking about
name.
Matt Rife?
Yeah, 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 yeah. And he was saying like in one of his shows that I mean he's funny, I like him, but he was just saying like in one of his shows like he kind of turned pretty, I think, like right around high school or right after high school, and there's a lot of attention, and he thought it would be cool, um, but he still was dealing with some internal stuff that still having some mental health challenges. You know what I mean? And so it that's not the all and be all. And I know some people may clap back and be like, nah, it's got to be this way, or you shouldn't have obese people, and I agree. You know what I mean? I mean, I think there's things that we can do. I can continue to work on. We've seen a lot of stars struggle with weight and stuff like that. Um, but still, I think it's about the mental, and like with that clip you sent me with the young man and his mom's that you started off at the beginning of the show is helping him to realize that he's beautiful right now and there's nothing wrong with him, because then if we can work on that and then change some of the other things, if he chooses to do so, he's going to be better off. Right?
Mhm.
It's not just about, I mean, I've known a few people where they get this is for women, they get the bigger breasts, and they say that like, they get the and they end up saying that like, dang, this didn't really change things much, or they start getting more negative attention, um and they thought it was going to be this way, and it ended up being that way. And
Mhm.
so um and not feeling, sometimes they feel better about themselves in the short run, but in the long run they still got some work to do. And so
Mhm.
again, just capitalizing on what you're saying as far as the internal, um for me, I also think like for me, and it might be to a fault, is that I don't know. I just see myself and I think I'm cool. Like, meaning like I look all right. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I don't think I'm the best looking dude in the room by no means, but I'm also not I don't feel like I'm the ugliest either. You know what I'm saying? And I hype myself up. Um and I sometimes wonder, and I've done this, so talking about self-image and full disclosure, I do sometimes wonder if I wish I could jump into somebody else's body for a minute and see
Mhm.
how they see me,
Mhm.
and what they see, and how does it come off. Because again, the way that we, even because I've worked with youth who have dealt with bulimia,
Mhm.
anorexia, and the way that they perceive themselves in the mirror isn't necessarily the way they are. So like they
Right.
may think that they're like, you know, 400 pounds when actually they're only like 120 pounds.
Right.
But they just feel that they're still 400, and so they keep, you know,
Mhm.
dropping and, throwing up, and um
I
because
feel
they go ahead.
sorry. I was gonna say I feel that way as well sometimes as a young man too. Just like being overweight, like you always are afraid of going back to that lifestyle of being overweight. So
Mhm.
you get in these modes for like 4 to 5 months of like, all right, I'm gonna grind in the gym 24/7, da da da. But then you realize that you're overcompensating and overworking, those muscles and not giving them the proper training or rest or
That too.
nutrients for that matter, right? Because you're in a calorie deficit and you want to be even more calorie deficit because you want to see the weight, you want to see the progress quicker. So it's that fear of going back to if they were once heavy set. I can speak for myself. Just if they're once bigger, or
Yeah.
then it's the fear of going back to that kind of image.
That too, right? I mean, yeah, it's all, and that's why I'm saying it's all mental, and then you were, tapping into that, right? And
Yeah.
it's really about helping, even today, I mean, just working on the mental and how you perceive things, and how you're taking that in, and how you're talking to yourself, um so that you can progress and not necessarily, again, slide into a bad situation, accidentally, um because of the way you're thinking about things. And so it's important, definitely, to be healthy.
Hmm.
It's important to, think about calories and exercise. And so I don't want anybody to hear that we're not saying that, but
Right.
what we are saying is that regardless of that, you're beautiful. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? And here's the other thing that's interesting for the guys out there, speaking of, like, you're talking about the high school dudes
Yeah.
that were wondering, like, what do the girls think? Is, you know what? It always blows my mind. Um, when I used to go to the mall, I don't know if we have malls out there anymore, but I used to love people watching, right? When some of our friends were shopping or whatever, and you see couples, and you be like, dang, man, that dude is busted. Like, how'd he get a girl? Or that girl is busted up, or whatever. How'd they get a dude, or whatever, right? And what I came to realize was, you know what? There's somebody for everybody,
Mm. Hmm.
no matter how you look, no
Right.
matter how you look. You're beautiful. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? I think that person's busted. Maybe they're just not for me.
Hmm.
But somebody else thinks they're beautiful. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then, like you said, also, it's not just always just about the looks. It could be the personality. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? That's just shining through. And so, always remember, guys, there's somebody out there for you, um,
Definitely.
that likes you just the way you are. And yeah, can you work on yourself? Hell yeah, definitely. And
Hmm.
not saying not do that,
We all can.
but just be careful on how you're talking to yourself, and don't tear yourself down, because I forget the African proverb, but it says, something like this, the our worst enemy is ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We judge ourselves more harshly and tear ourselves down more so than anybody else, and that's not healthy, and that's not
Definitely.
good. Either being black, Latinx, Asian, American Indian, Native American, um, we're all beautiful people, man.
For
And
sure.
so hang in. I know we got to get ready to wrap this up, though.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna share last things, man. It's
Yeah,
just
please do.
everything in moderation. You know what I mean? Everything in moderation. Sometimes it's easy to go to those extreme because we see results quickly or because they're comfortable when we talk about eating disorders and whatnot. But I don't know if you saw this from SAMHSA's website. If y'all not familiar with SAMHSA's website, you definitely check them out. They're a great resource
It's
to.
a Substance Abuse Mental Health Service Administration.
Yes. They talked about how now over exercising is a testament to, or maybe even harmful
Oh
to,
yeah,
or equivalent to self harming. Right. A lot
yeah,
of people go to the gym and they try to get a lot of volume and trying to get a nice big pump and whatever that is causing strain, and they like the pain that they feel from
makes sense.
from exercising. And it's the camp is now clarifying that, or classifying that as self-harm, especially because yeah, you're not seeing your progress, you're not seeing your results. So what I took from that information was that we got to do everything in moderation. That everything, and we talk
Yep.
about moderation is not going too extreme, but not doing it at all, right? It's just something nice in between, in the middle, whether it be 3 to 5 days a week that you're working out, or if I'm on this diet from Monday through Friday and Saturday is kind of like my cheat meal or whatever, I go 2 weeks, whatever the case may be. Just keep everything in moderation, and you'll be surprised at your results. Right? It'll be a lot more healthy. It'll be a lot more strenuous, or not less, a lot less strenuous on your body. Then you realize you have more energy. And one of the things that we will say is to in this podcast is that we're not health experts, meaning the nutritionists, athletic
By
coaching.
no means,
We're
no means.
just we're more mental health coaches and stuff like that. So, lastly, I'll let them know that if you are somebody that is struggling, a young man that is struggling with your body image and your self esteem and just how you're viewing yourself, don't be afraid to reach out for help and to talk to somebody.
Yep.
There's no shame. I know a lot of men that struggle with eating disorders, more of the binge eating than anything, and they reach out to help. They talk to a therapist, they talk to their family members more openly about it. So don't be afraid to reach out, man. You don't have to put up this front that you got to be the strongest in the room, and we'll talk more about that on the next podcast, about emotions and mental health and more in depth. But don't be afraid to talk to somebody, reach out to somebody.
Yeah.
Therapy's not crazy. You're not crazy for seeing a therapist. You're keeping maintenance. You're doing yourself good for doing that thing. So, with that being said, do you want to add on to anything I just added at the end?
No, no, talk it out. That's what I would say, man. There's nothing wrong with talking and finding those positive people around you to do that with, that uplift you and not tear you down. So let's get out of here, man. Let the people let that marinate for a little bit.
Let that marinate. And
Let it marinate.
before we get up out of here, man, I hope that y'all leave a review on here on Apple Podcasts and
Yes.
Spotify, or wherever you listen. Leave us 5 stars if you're rocking with the pod. This is season 2, so hopefully
Yeah,
you
yeah.
rocking with it. Let us know what your favorite episode has been up to this point. You can also reach out to us on our website at uptoit.club. That is uptoit.club, and you can leave a little review, a form. If you have a story that you want to share, something that you are struggling with, and you're like, maybe I should get Z and Jamal to get their input on here. And we won't use names or none of that. We'll just keep it
Right.
all broad and general. But we definitely want to add guidance and give you useful information that you will apply to your life. So with that being said, we needed some feedback. So we need to hear from y'all what y'all need from us.
And the other thing is, if you want us to come and talk to you, you know what I'm saying, do an assembly or do a workshop or something like that, we're available. Hit us up. Actually, we're going to be doing something at a college coming up here in September. Z and I, the dynamic duo, we're going to be out there. So, yeah, hit us up. We got y'all.
Definitely. And we don't get up out of here, man. I hope y'all have a great rest of your day, evening, morning, wherever you're watching and listening from. We don't get up out of here, Jamal. We out.
We out. We out. We out. We out.